Good morning and welcome to Sociological. We are the students from the Department of Sociology, myself Shafina, with Daya and English. And we have the privilege of speaking with Ms. Irene Jethro, Principal of Same School CBSE, who brings with her a rich experience of working across multiple cities in India. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to hearing your unique insights on the sociological lens.
Thank you. I'm privileged to be here.
So let's start with a few questions. So, across the different cities you have worked in, what are some striking social differences you have noticed in how education is perceived and valued?
India is a huge country with a lot of diversity. Cultural differences are many, and so is the perception towards education. But if you ask me personally, I feel education all over the country is the same, mainly because I worked in only CBSE schools. So Central Board caters to cultural diversity, and hence there isn't much difference as such, but there are common, very general differences. For example, there are differences not according to culture, but there are differences according to gender. Also, yes, in certain communities, so again, it's not a cultural difference, but it is more of a communal difference. So in certain communities, it's the boys who get preference to better education, and the girls don't get as much.
Have you noticed variations in gender roles, especially in how parents guide their daughters or their sons in academic or career choices?
Yeah, like I just told you, that is something which I have seen very commonly. And I see that over communities and over different cultures, there are mostly boys who are preferred over girls. And this is also very largely connected to the financial background of the families. And it might be a little controversial if I say, but then I'd like to dare to say it, that the more financially affluent a family, the lesser the discrimination between a boy and a girl, that is on a larger scale. But a community plays a very important role over here. We still have in India certain communities where no matter what your financial condition, a girl is not given as much preference as the boy of the house. So communal differences largely affect gender roles in education.
Ma'am, from urban metros to smaller towns, how would you compare the student mindset, particularly in ambition, discipline, and even peer dynamics?
Yeah, this is actually very funny that in different cities, you asked me for cities, can you just ask me again?
Ranging from metros to smaller towns.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So, well, discipline in smaller towns is much higher. And the larger the city, the lesser the discipline. Now again, I must give this disclaimer that this is my personal opinion. It might not be the truth for everyone. It is certainly not a universal truth, but it is just my personal opinion. I found in smaller cities that I worked in, the discipline was far better, and as the city got larger, the discipline became lesser. Now there is the question is, what according to you is discipline? So I realized that in smaller cities what we called discipline was very regimental in nature, whereas in bigger cities discipline has a very different connotation to it. The meaning of discipline is very different. It is certainly not regimental. So I feel the family background is what matters more, the upbringing matters more, rather than the size of the town or the city.
To continue with another question, I wanted to ask that we often speak about how culture shapes identity, but were there any cultural practices in certain regions that had a noticeable influence in the school life?
The way education is treated is not just as acquiring knowledge. Education is almost like worship. And the more closely we are connected to our culture as Indians and our roots in our values, the stronger is our worship towards this whole process of education. It is not just learning through books.
In terms of socio-economic background, how did disparities reflect in like students' learning styles or even their confidence levels?
I just told you this that, I found a person from a more financially stable background was more confident, yes, but that doesn't mean that the same person had more discipline and had more focus and was very ambitious. So I would not give financial stability or that kind of a socio-economic background credit towards the ambition that a student will have. It is all a very individual characteristic. Students are all wired very differently. Family background, genetics, the way the child has been brought up, the school that the child studies in, all of them play a very important role, irrespective of the socio-economic background.
Ma'am, have you ever found yourself in a situation where the local community's values or ethics or customs which directly or indirectly impacted your administrative decisions?
I don't think anything has affected my administrative decision. Expectations from me have been different in different cultures. So I had to adapt my style to be able to connect to the parents more. So that made a lot of difference. Culturally, there are certain cultures where parents feel that they should be more, should be given more importance. And there are certain cultures where parents say that they need not be bothered. They should not be bothered because they're all working and they all want to be free. They don't want us to think. There are certain places where people are very, involved in the whole process of education. There are certain places where people are not very involved in things. So culturally, yes, there are a lot of differences, but it hasn't impacted the way I work. It has sort of just helped me to understand and adjust to the requirements.
To counter a question, I wanted to ask, were there any changes in the school functioning because of the influence of?
Yeah, certainly. See, if I am working in a community where the parents would like to be involved, then naturally I would like them to be involved too. It is a good thing for me. So we have adjusted many a times. Even in this school, if you see, there are parents who come as judges. There are parents who come and give their opinions after a program has got over. There are parents who are whose opinion is sought before a certain thing is brought in. So this is the latest example. Yes. And also, like I said, culturally, if there are girls who are not given a lot of preference, then we try to have more activities where the girls are given, given opportunities to excel. But those are more semi-urban kind of areas. Certainly not our city here.
Also, how did parental involvement vary across areas? Because as far as I have noticed, in some schools parents are extremely hands-on, in others they don't engage much. How do you think it affects the social culture of the school?
Oh, it affects it very, very strongly. We would want parents to be very involved. That is how the Central Board of Secondary Education expects the parents' involvement to be. And it is always a very, very welcome move to have parents coming in. Now, there is a fine line actually. Okay, and the fine line is that sometimes the parental involvement goes a little overboard, and it starts becoming as if we are being dictated terms. That is where we have to be careful. I mean, I have to be careful as the person who's heading the school, that I should be able to create a happy balance between parents' involvement and parents' interference. So, but it is certainly very welcome. I mean, at least for me, it is a very, very welcome thing where parents are involved and are willing to understand what is happening. After all, we are all working towards a common purpose, and that is the students.
Ma'am, as a sociology student, I'm quite curious about how the schools were inclusive towards the people who are differently abled, or the people who are considered disadvantaged in the society. You have worked through various cities, and you have observed the societal action towards how the school acted towards the people who are differently able to. So, what's your opinion and experience about it?
My opinion about differently able children being accepted in schools?
No, my opinion is about ranging from cities. Were there any changes in the inclusive education which is being followed in schools towards the differently abled or the people?
Inclusive education was not there earlier. It was not a well-known concept. However, the central board has always encouraged us to be inclusive in our practices. Then over the years, as I was working, I realized that inclusivity was brought in. This term of inclusive education started becoming more and more popular, and so it was given a structure. It was given a form as to how things have to be done. Earlier, it wasn't like that, and I feel that in different cities, it is perceived very differently. There is certainly a very huge mental block towards acceptance first, and then the treatment of it. When I say treatment, I don't mean medical treatment. I'm saying how we treat the situation. There are different degrees to which a student requires help. There are certain degrees where a school is not able to help. Even then, if a parent is willing and the child is willing, the school has to have a very open door policy. Of course, it requires a whole lot of adjustment. It requires a whole lot of understanding the requirements of that one student. But it all falls in place because it develops inclusivity, of course. It develops empathy among students. It develops sensitivity among the others who are not specially abled. Okay, so this whole feeling of belongingness that one person feels, and all the others contribute towards making that this child comfortable in the class, it all leads to a very humane upbringing of the whole class as a community. So now, having said that, I must say that again, in different cities, there are different approaches to this whole thing. In a smaller city, maybe let's say, a semi-urban kind of a city, there again, I won't say acceptance. Acceptance, of course, is a problem everywhere, but identification of a problem is the bigger issue there. So many children go unidentified. Okay, that's one thing. If it is a physical disability, then of course it's a different thing. But then if it is not something which is very apparent, very visible, then it goes very unnoticed. And then after that, to build that community, single-handedly, it is not possible. We need trainers, we need teachers, we need facilitators, and then the class comes in. So the lack of staff who understand this whole process is a very big issue in smaller cities. In bigger cities, there are more children that come up because it's easier to identify. There are more opportunities available for them to be able to get medical attention for any disability. But again, what is a bigger problem is that I have found that the staff has not been very, they haven't really understood how to cater to the needs of a child who requires special attention. The best thing that I would say that CBSE has brought in is the making it mandatory for every school to have a special educator, because that makes a huge change. Over the last 2-3 years, something very beautiful that has happened is these special educators have got a real role to play in the school. The schools have started realizing that theirs is not a part-time job. Theirs is not something where, they can just go fill in substitution periods. But they have a real-time job at hand. So inclusivity, I would say, has come in a long, long way in all kinds of cities and all kinds of cultures. It is a very, very welcome move, and I strongly advise all students, all teachers, every school to become more and more inclusive in nature.
Ma'am, also, since you have led schools in various cultural and social settings, how do you adapt your leadership style based on the region you're in?
Based on the region? Okay. Well, I'm sure you would understand when I said that the biggest challenge that I face is the language. So, thankfully, again, Central Board of Secondary Education comes to my rescue, because English is a medium of instruction and also universally accepted. So it is quite nice for me to be able to only speak in English. But in various states, the regional languages, it's exciting for me. I won't say that it wasn't very daunting. Only times when I had a little trouble was when parents who did not know how to speak in English would come around. But again, you will see, over our conversation, you will see me using some phrases on repeat. So one of those phrases is the common goal. So the parent and I have one common goal. That is the benefit of the same child, of the student. So when two people with the same interest come together, language is not so much of a barrier, because we're talking about this, we're talking the same, we're trying to find a solution to the same problem, or we're trying to talk about something to benefit the same child. So language, of course, was one thing. Culturally, saris are accepted everywhere, so that was never a big problem. Sometimes I found it difficult when there were cultural requirements, like in certain places girls wear anklets, boys wear earrings, girls wear flowers, or have certain things on their bodies. So those things, and I came from a city where all this wasn't very common. So there it was a little, I had to take time to understand. But it was nice. It was a good learning for me. There are certain things which are part of discipline and should not be allowed. Certain things that can be allowed. So yeah.
Finally, after having seen such a range of social dynamics, how has your vision of education evolved? And what have these experiences taught you personally?
One thing that that I have learned over my 32 years is that as long as my focus is that child, now they can be 1,000, they can be 10,000 children in a school. As long as my focus is the child, nothing else matters. As long as I am with sincerity and integrity working towards the benefit of that child, nothing else matters. I have realized that the child is not different, whether it is the north of India, the south of India, whether it is the west or the east. The child is the same. There is absolutely no difference. From cultures to cities, from communities to religions, there are just very superficial differences. But otherwise, the heart and the mind of the child work exactly in the same way. There is no change. And when there is a connection from the heart to the heart, then no diversity really matters. So I have learned over these years that the most important requirement for my job is not my job as a leader, but as my job as a teacher, or anyone who's involved in the school community working for the good of the children. The first and the foremost requirement is love. If I do not have love, and if every action that I make, no matter what I do, if it is devoid of that basic requirement of love, then it will not have the same effect. It will fail. And like it is said, love never fails. So that is the most important thing. With that as the foundational characteristic, then I build upon it, and then there is empathy, there is discipline, there is integrity, and after all of this, finally is the subject and all the knowledge and all of that. So yes, this has taken me many years. I didn't start this way. So over the years, it got developed, and I realized that my foundational characteristic has to be love.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your journey is not just a reflection on educational leadership, but a study in sociology itself.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And we hope our listeners, especially fellow students, take away a deeper understanding on how society shapes schools, and in turn how schools shape societies. Thank you.